In yet another obviously ill-fated and biased attempt to draw a line under the Horner sex scandal, unnamed sources at Red Bull are reportedly briefing that Fiona Hewitson, the woman accusing Christian Horner of pestering her for sex, has been fired, while euphemistically referring to it as a suspension. Of course, it is all in a day's work for the Liberty Media-controlled F1 Media, to quote inside sources at Red Bull, without citing the suspension notice or confirming with the person supposedly suspended, that she has been duly informed of her suspension. Let us wait and see when Fiona will say she received the notice of suspension. In any event, this is an opening shot fired by Red Bull in a declaration of hostilities that screams panic and will backfire even more than the previous doomed, an ill-advised attempt to draw a line under the scandal by dismissing the allegations. However, this time around, Red Bull appear to be acting in concert with Liberty Media's owner, John Malone. Before going further, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next video is uploaded. Why would Liberty Media be getting involved in Red Bull's mess, we hear you ask? And how are they doing it? Well, the answer to the first question is very simple. F1 is in big trouble as all the key indices that underscored last season's declining fortunes have gotten worse since the start of this season, and the Horner sex scandal is exacerbating the rate of decline across all indices. F1 share price started falling steadily in the wake of the leaked WhatsApp messages. Social media engagement is continuing its freefall, as more people are being put off from all the negativity surrounding the scandal. Amongst those that are still engaging, there is a continuing exponential increase in the sport being associated with negative adjectives. This is only to be expected as supporters of both warring camps have now joined the ranks of those critical of the team and the protagonists. Team principals and other senior figures are also being compelled to use negative adjectives in responding to the torrid media interest. All the negativity and bad publicity surrounding Hornergate has ensured that the dramatic drop in ticket prices, sales, and viewers that characterized last season has continued unabated into this season. Despite all the massive publicity surrounding Hornergate, the 2024 Bahrain season opener was the least watched F1 opener in the modern era. In Liberty Media's much-prized US market, women's college basketball generated more audience. The writing was on the wall as event organizers had to offer a staggering 30% discount to try and shift tickets in the wake of depressing sales. Potential partners and sponsors, like Ford, are reviewing their decision to enter the sport, in partnership with Red Bull, particularly because of the scandal and the way it is being handled. Current Red Bull partners, Honda, are also reviewing their relationship with Red Bull and calling for more information and transparency in the handling of the allegations. The governing body, the FIA, have also determined that the scandal is highly damaging to the sport. Against this background, Liberty Media was compelled to act. So, how do we know Liberty Media is the hand that is up Red Bull's backside? Well, the answer to that is a simple one, once you recognize John Malone's signature move, which is controlling the media narrative and gaslighting the public. As possibly the biggest media mogul in the world, with the longest reach, John Malone's Liberty Media had to have a hand in the spreading of the unverified story of the outrageous suspension of Christian Horner's accuser. This is the textbook definition of constructive dismissal. Significantly, Fiona was not suspended during the 2 months that Red Bull sat on her complaint. She was not suspended after the month-long sham and suspiciously confidential report dismissed her allegations. She was not suspended during the prescribed period for her to appeal the report's finding. News of her alleged suspension went out within a day of the expiration of her deadline for appealing the report's finding. Shortly afterwards, renowned Liberty Media henchmen, like Andrew the Bullshitter Benson, of the Bent Broadcasting Corporation, doubled down on the unverified suspension, by reporting that she was suspended for being dishonest. With any luck, this claim by the BBC will form part of Fiona's incoming lawsuit. The irony of Red Bull sanctioning an employee for dishonesty is lost only to esteemed gophers like Benson. Critically, it is unclear whether this news, which was carried widely throughout and beyond John Malone's media empire, was based on an understanding from an unnamed source inside Red Bull Global headquarters in Austria, or Red Bull Racing in Milton Keynes, in the United Kingdom. It should be noted that, up until this stage, we had always been told who was doing what. The complainant, who was working out of Milton Keynes, nevertheless lodged her complaint in Austria. The independent counsel who interviewed Horner in the UK was appointed from Austria, and the announcement of the completion and dismissal of the allegations came out of Austria. Suddenly, these erudite wordsmiths are unable to state clearly whether Christian fired the woman who rejected his sexual advances, or the shot was fired by his male Austrian counterparts, who we contend, are acting on the orders of the one who must be obeyed. Just to put the signature on the shot, the source of the leak from Red Bull did not say, and none of these intrepid reporters spreading the news bothered to ask how long her fully paid suspension would be for. This is the type of shot that only a top marksman like John Malone can make. Paradoxically, the company that had been unwilling to provide details of the report to protect the confidentiality of the parties involved, was nevertheless inclined to give anonymous media briefing on the alleged suspension of the complainant. Now, something that we find particularly damning is that, in responding to Benson, Horner has advised that the hitherto anonymous KC is a male. So, on top of everything else, Red Bull appointed a male to investigate allegations of sexual harassment made by a female employee against her male boss. You just can't believe the extent of Red Bull's incompetence or arrogance. What should be believed, however, is that the only person in the picture who has the ability to make so many news outlets ask how high when he says jump, is our one and only John M.F. Malone. Red Bull on their own do not wield such power, otherwise the scandal would be dead and largely unreported. John Malone is the long-established master of the dark arts of media manipulation. Just think back, how many media outlets persisted with criticism of Abu Dhabi 2021, beyond the immediate 24 hours or so of the incident, and how many invariably joined the gaslighting bandwagon, discussing whether Marcy had the power to change the rules mid-race, when every single person knew the answer was no. We would contend that Malone compelled Red Bull to initiate Fiona's dismissal by suspending her, because he is the only one who could ensure that the unverified information was as widely disseminated as it has been. Otherwise, some reporters would have done the most basic task of citing the suspension notice or confirming with Fiona. Critically, the report into her allegation did not conclude that she should be suspended. So, what has happened in the days between the publication of the report and the anonymous briefing of her suspension? Notably, there was the leaking of the highly damaging WhatsApp messages the day after the report. However, we have not been informed that Red Bull have traced the leak to Fiona, and it would be unlawful for them to sanction her while investigating the leak, because they did not do the same while investigating her allegations against Horner. What is significant, and what we contend moved Liberty Media to get involved, is the steady fall in F1 share price that began as trading opened the Monday after the WhatsApp was leaked the previous Thursday. The markets don't really care about right or wrong, they just dislike uncertainty, and Red Bull's handling to date had generated plenty of uncertainty about the eventual outcome. To calm investors, Malone most likely advised them that the Fiona matter had been squared off. Red Bull had been compelled to set aside some money to settle her imminent lawsuit, and preempted matters by firing the opening shot, with a weapon that only Liberty Media could have provided. There is no doubt that there is a massive lawsuit incoming from Fiona, and Red Bull couldn't have incriminated themselves any better if they had tried. They just want to force Fiona into acting quicker so the matter can be settled at the earliest opportunity. However, there is always the possibility of unintended consequences to any course of action, and in this case, neither Red Bull nor John Malone appear to have considered the possibility of widespread public backlash to the sacking of a woman who made credible allegations of sexual harassment against her male boss, in a male-dominated industry where all her judges were male. You just can't make it make sense. After sitting on an evidence-backed complaint of sexual harassment that a woman made against her male boss, a 3-man board of directors appointed a male counsel to investigate. After a month-long investigation which included over 8 hours of interviewing the accused male, the male counsel decided to dismiss the allegations but keep the report confidential. Shortly afterwards the female was suspended for dishonesty. Effing believable. Whatever will be next? Whatever it is, it will be more exciting than any race this season, and, we on our part, really like it, and are just loving it like this.